so happy to see everybody in person here today. My name is Hugh Gwill, and I am a man living in recovery from alcoholism and drug addiction. And what that means for me today is that I get to be a husband, a father, a son, a brother, a business owner, an Archway board member, a sponsor, a sponsee, and a friend. And for these things, I am indescribably grateful. Now, with that said, I'd like to welcome all our in-person guests and all of our virtual guests today to this wonderful event. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize the terrific board at Archway. They do phenomenal work, and I would love for them to stand for a moment and be recognized. It's been an honor to serve alongside you all. And lastly, but certainly not least, I'd like to give a Houston, Texas-size shout out to our remarkable luncheon chairs, Craig and Kathy Taylor, whose efforts made today become a reality. Craig and Kathy, please stand. Thank you all. When Sasha asked me to give the welcome today, she said, "Hugh, you have 5 minutes." And she reiterated that because she knows how I can get. But I enthusiastically accepted. I enjoy speaking. I've done it many times in the past. I actually did it at this luncheon a few years back. But no matter how good or whatever my speech is, I'm always left wondering, what did the audience walk away from what I just said, other than some really tall guy just spoke loudly at me for some duration of time? So with that in mind, I'm just going to read y'all 2 pieces of data. And those pieces of data are the number of people aged 0 to 29 who have died from COVID-19 from January 1st, 2020 to October 13th, 2021. And the second piece of data I'm going to read is the number of people aged 0 to 24 who have died from overdoses in the year 2020. Now, those are the best comparable data sets I could find after hours of researching on the internet, which as a father with 2 young daughters is disappointing on its face, okay? Now, I know that the numbers are gonna fade in the abyss of info that lives between our ears, but I hope the magnitude of the 2 numbers I'm about to say to you will stick. So, the people aged 0 to 29 who died from COVID-19 from January 1st, 2020 to October 13th, 2021, courtesy of Statista, because Scott would make me, where's Scott? Scott would make me cite my sources, was 4,401. Okay? That's a tragic number. The people aged 0 to 24 who died from overdose deaths in the year 2020, 7,337. Okay. Since our awful news outlets enjoy referencing death counter numbers on the bottom right-hand corners of their screens so much these days, where's this death counter? When was the last time you ever heard any broadcast news journalist mention this number or these individuals? When was it last in the Chronicle? When was it last on local news? It makes me sick to my stomach. Every young person death is a tragedy. But what makes this tragic group of young people overdose deaths, which is unquestionably at least 3 times greater than the same number of folks that died from COVID-19 in that same age range, in that same time frame, not even worth mentioning? The people working at Alphabet news stations who are actively dividing this wonderful country aren't going to change. And I'd say this to their faces. It is up to us. It is up to you and me to change the perspective by raising awareness around the greatest public threat facing, public health crisis facing young people today by a large margin. And you know how I know I'm right? Just look at the scoreboard, the awful scoreboard that I just mentioned. But then, I try to remember to breathe and close my eyes, because there are beautiful bright spots in this world that are worth focusing on. And Archway Academy is one of those. For years, Archway Academy has met the educational needs of teens recovering from substance use disorder and alcoholism with care, compassion, respect, and rigor. Imagine if there was an archway in every city, or 2 archways, or 10 archways. In order for that world to become a reality, Archway needs our support, not only financially, and there's QR codes at our table to donate money. You can also text donate to 50155. But it needs our support by changing the perspectives in conversations we have in our communities and around our dinner tables about the public health crises that affect our young people in this country and around this world today. So without further ado, I'm honored to welcome this young man, a bright spot within a bright spot, Corrice. He's going to start us off by blessing our food today and before the program begins. I want to thank you all for taking some time to listen to me. Sasha, I hope I stayed under 5 minutes. And see? Yeah, that happens. Please enthusiastically welcome my man, Corrice.
Hello, everybody. My name is Corrice, and I'm currently a senior at Archway Academy. Been a senior for about 4 months. I have 2 years sobriety. I've been sober for about 2 years. And I'm thankful for everybody here today that supports Archway through all of our struggles and helping other addicts recover. Recovery has taught me a lot. It's especially taught me how to lead a spiritual life. That's why I'm really honored to say the prayer with you guys here today. So without further ado, could you please join me in a prayer? Father God, we thank you for bringing us all here together safely, that we may be joined with one another to celebrate Archway. We thank you for every student, parent, teacher, staff, board member, and donor that has been a part of making our school such a positive influence in your world. God, we are all bonded together by our love and support for Archway. We ask that you continue to help our community grow in your grace and mercy. We pray for the addict or alcoholic still suffering, that they would find their way and know that they are loved. Thank you for the food prepared for us today. Bless this food and nourish our bodies. Unite us with one another as we enjoy our meal. We love you. In your name we pray. Amen. Enjoy your guys' meal.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? So I know we only gave you 2 minutes to eat your food. Thank you. So we are going to continue with the program. Please continue to eat. Please enjoy your meal. But we want to make sure we get you out of here on time. We take a lot of pride in getting you in and out on time. So we're going to continue on with our program as you continue to enjoy your meal and fellowship at your table. So I'm Sasha McLean. Actually, I'm Sasha Coles. Wow, I got divorced 2 years ago, and I'm having a great time with that. I'm Sasha Coles, and I'm the Executive Director of Archway Academy, and welcome to our 14th annual Luncheon. We're really excited that you're here. Thank you to our in-person viewers and also our virtual viewers. I'm going to ask for your support today in helping spread the word about Archway. As Hugh mentioned, there are a lot of folks out there that need us, but there are a lot of folks out there that don't know we exist. So there's a couple of simple things that you can do for us today that will make a significant impact in how far we reach the message and the hope of Archway Academy. So if you'll be so kind to post on Facebook that you were here, check into our event here at the River Oaks Country Club. If you can post something on Instagram, on any of your social media, on LinkedIn, think of all of the ways in which you connect with people. Please let them know that you came here and share a little bit about the experience that you had. You can use our hashtags, hashtag Archway Luncheon on Facebook. You can use at Archway Academy HTX or on Instagram at Archway Academy. So if you'll please take a moment at some point during your day today to please acknowledge that you were here and share a little bit about the hope and the inspiration that you experienced today. We would greatly appreciate it. So Archway is an extremely unique school. And the best way to understand us is to peek inside of our doors and our windows. So this year's luncheon video was designed specifically to let you see inside of what happens every day in a unique community like a recovery high school. So welcome to Archway Academy. Can you imagine what it's like to be a young person coming into school every morning, being surrounded by peers who truly understand the journey that you're on, the desire for recovery, working hard to get their mental health settled, an incredible student community full of kids all here for a common goal. Hi, I'm Sasha Coles, the Executive Director for Archway Academy. Archway opened its doors in January of 2004 to welcome students struggling with substance use issues and co-occurring mental health disorders. Archway Academy is a collaboration of 3 incredible organizations. Palmer Memorial Episcopal Church, a beautiful place in sunny Houston that's welcomed us for the last 15, 16 years. Archway Academy, the nonprofit recovery arm that provides all the clinical services and the recovery supports for the school. And Southwest Schools that provides our academics and our faculty members. It's really all 3 groups coming together that make this school so special. Another incredible element of the Archway student community is the magical combination of kids that are struggling and kids that are doing really, really well. That's where the accountability happens within the community. Whether it's morning check-in, whether it's kids talking one-on-one, whether it's kids supporting other kids through step work and sponsorship, the beautiful combination of kids doing really well and kids who are newer in recovery looking for solution is part of the magic of the school.
The community at Archway almost immediately felt comfortable to me. There was a huge recovery presence in the girls' community at the time, and I felt so at home with all those girls. I remember we'd all sit around and girls check in, and even when I was brand new, girls were coming up to me all day, giving me hugs, like, what's your name? What are you doing here? I was here last year. Do you have any questions? The fact that I had a new community of people who really cared and noticed me was a huge impact on me.
Archway works really hard to foster therapeutic systems of accountability between the faculty and the students. The students know they can come here and be themselves, but they also know they'll have to do that with boundaries and with integrity. Part of being a person in recovery is not just about being drug and alcohol free. Part of it is about learning to be the best version of yourself. That includes how you treat people at school, how hard you're trying in your classes. Things well beyond, did I put marijuana in my body today? Did I drink alcohol this weekend? The incredible part of the student community here is the balance between student accountability, faculty accountability, and the kids holding themselves accountable to the principles of recovery.
The community at Archway really helped me. These were my first months out of treatment, and a thing that helped me overcome my difficulties first coming to Archway was reaching out. Because when I started to reach out, I realized I wasn't alone. Just talking to these people really humbled me and really helped me come to this place where I realized I was okay and I was being supported.
Archway's academic program allows for a lot of flexibility in how students get their credits. Our online classes that the students do here on campus with faculty support helps kids who are behind get back on track. And then we've got our traditional classes being taught by teachers, full semester classes, midterms, finals, research projects, where kids have a more traditional academic experience. Having the flexibility of credit recovery and traditional classes allows us to meet the needs of any student who comes. Archway believes that students in recovery need something different. They need a school who respects their recovery, who understands some of their mental health challenges, who can be patient with their parents who are scared and terrified because of the journey that their kid has been on.
As a parent, I didn't imagine that there was anything wrong. I was not looking for the signs. Before Charles found recovery, I did, looking back, realize that he had withdrawn and was not his sunny, funny self. He was spending a lot of time by himself in his room and really did not want to interact with the family or share, which was completely different from all of the years that I knew him growing up. And I'm so grateful that we found Archway.
Archway students have a mountain of obstacles to overcome. Legal issues, family challenges, mental health challenges, sometimes going to 6 schools in 2 years. But nothing prepared us for what it would be like to operate a school during a global pandemic. Our families had to overcome incredible obstacles.
The pandemic has been crazy and our lives have been topsy-turvy, and Archway has been there to support us in every way that we needed. For the first time in my life, I had to ask for financial help, and they were able to help us.
We worked really hard to make sure our families were getting their needs met when a lot of activities and a lot of things that made life feel normal for people were taken away. It was incredible to watch our community come together to survive such a difficult time. I think when Archway students first come here, they've been so used to being seen as like the throwaway kids. You know, the kids that have too many problems to be helped, and they don't feel a lot of hope. My hope and wish for them is that when they come to a place like Archway and they meet the people here and they meet the other students here, that they feel a genuine sense of like what the possibilities for their life might be.
To be honest, I didn't really like myself too much. It was a hard time. I had a very bad mental space going on at the time. There's a lot of pain. During active addiction, I would never try. So I hated myself constantly for making mistakes and repeating them. I realized when I try my hardest, I'm not upset when I lose.
What helped me to overcome the challenges when I first got here to Archway was really just the community. At my other schools, I always felt out of place. I never felt like I could fully be myself. I felt there was a lot of masquerading I had to do, and I didn't have to do that at Archway. That really put me in a place where I just felt like I was home and I was accepted.
I don't understand how people can't love these kids with all their hearts. They're the most incredible, brave, resilient kids that I know. It's an honor to love them. It's an honor to work with them. And Archway is full of staff members and board members that don't want to be anywhere else than right here
with these students, supporting them in whatever's next in their lives.
The small environment here really gives for that individual one-on-one care that normal environments just you can't have. You can't provide that. And that's a huge blessing for the kids here, especially because they're behind and the teachers get that.
I wasn't sure that my son would be able to graduate. I was initially hesitant to join a small community in a small school, but I realize now that that's exactly what my son needed. Counselors on site, faculty that understand his recovery journey really helped get him back on the right track.
I've went through slip-ups, I've went through mistakes, and the big thing about that was people weren't judgmental, because a lot of these people also made mistakes, and they've realized that, you know, we're just people, and I am too, and so they loved me unconditionally.
The community at Archway Academy not only supports the students, but we support the parents. They're on their own recovery journey, full of highs and lows. And our goal is to help them see all of the possibilities that recovery can bring, not only for their kid, but for their family.
One thing I forgot to mention, there's an envelope at most of your tables. We would love for you to make sure we have all of your contact information. We'd love to thank you personally. We'd also love to keep in touch with you. We'd love to send you email blasts and let you know about the upcoming events happening within the Archway community. So if you came here as a guest of someone, an underwriter for your table, please take a moment to fill out the contact information sheet in the envelope at your table so that you can continue being a part of everything exciting happening at Archway. And it's my pleasure to introduce one of our students. You'll hear from several people today who are going to share a little bit about their personal experience. And the first person you'll hear from is Lua. If you guys will give her a warm welcome. She's very nervous.
Hi, I'm Lua. I'm 16 years old and a junior at Archway. Addiction runs heavily in my family, and to top it all off, my parents own a bar. The first time I got drunk was at a holiday celebration. I was 9 years old. By the time I was in middle school, I was using marijuana, cocaine, and other harder substances. In 9th grade, I tried PCP for the first time and began the downward spiral into a very ugly period of my life. When I was using PCP, I couldn't tell hallucinations from reality. I'd leave home one person and come home another. There were times where I felt like I was the coolest kid, smoking weed in the school bathroom and using harder drugs after school with my friends. And then there was another part of me that felt like a terrible person, with no goals, a failure to my family. The truth was, I was starting to hate myself. During this time, my father got arrested for a DWI, and we all finally acknowledged he was an addict. He started the path to getting well, and I used this as an excuse to get high. About a week after his arrest, I stole 2 bottles of wine from the CVS down the street from my school. The next day, my friends and I snuck off campus to get lunch. I put the wine in a silver water bottle and drank it all at school. Long story short, my parents were called, and on the way home, my dad and I got into a huge argument. I opened the car door and jumped out while the car was still moving. I think often about the insanity of the entire situation and how it shows the unmanageability of what happened to my family. A few days later, my mom sat me down and I spilled the whole truth. She showed me a documentary called Generation Found. The film showed the lives of other teens who got sober, and Archway was a big part of the story. I broke down. I hated myself, I hated using, I hated my feelings, I hated everything. I wanted to change. I knew my parents loved me, but they felt more like police officers than parents at this point. Watching Generation Found gave me some hope and showed me what might be possible for my life. I'm really grateful for that movie and the people I started to meet because of it. This was all happening right at the start of COVID, so the world started to shut down. I got my first few months of sober during online school and online recovery meetings. Looking back now, I'm really proud of myself that I survived the early stages of my recovery during a pandemic. Yay. Last year, I went through a difficult time with my sobriety, with my mental health. I was starting to have massive anxiety, panic attacks, and I felt like I was losing the stability I worked so hard to gain. I got really scared when I started considering killing myself. That was old stuff, and I wanted to do it different this time. I decided to tell Sasha everything I was feeling. things that I was holding back because I thought people would think I wasn't serious about my recovery. My mom and Sasha worked together to make a plan, and thankfully, Sasha was there for every step of the way, and for that, I'm forever grateful for her. I went to a psychiatric hospital for several days to get stabilized and got on some new medication. It was a game changer for me at that time. I came back home and back to Archway feeling more like myself. Thanks to my family, my APG, and Archway, I have 1 year, 8 months, and 13 days sober. Before coming to Archway, I thought I would drop out of high school and live on my life on the streets. Now, I want to get a college education, and I want to grow and make my family proud. I'm dreaming big right now. I have different ideas. Medical examiner, designing and making clothes, or starting an alternative peer group or recovery school in another town that doesn't have what Houston has. Archway has helped me realize who I am as a person and what I can accomplish. I have solidified a relationship with my family, and my father that got the DWI has joined me in living a sober lifestyle. Thank you for loving and supporting teens like me by being at this luncheon. You have no idea what this means to me and my family. Thank you.
Hello. Just need to see how loud I need to be. All right. Louder. All right. My name is Kyle, and I'm 27 years old, and I graduated from Archway in 2012. I know, 9 years ago. It was a long time. I'm honored to be here as an alumni today. When I was 16, I got suspended from school because I went to class high on prescription drugs. My parents saw my drug use had been progressing rapidly, and there was no sign that I was going to stop. Not long after this incident, I was put in an alternative peer group, and I was sent to Archway. Initially, I didn't want to be there because I wasn't that enthusiastic about staying sober. I ended up relapsing after being there for 5 months and had another relapse a couple of months after that. After going to a residential treatment program, I was welcomed back to Archway with loving arms. This time, I wanted to be there. I stayed sober and had an incredible senior year. I don't think that I would have been able to stay sober at my old high school. I had surrounded myself with other heavy drug users, and it would have been extremely difficult to get away from that social group and not go back to using. Archway provided me with a peer group that had the same goals as I did, to stay sober, graduate, and go to college. Archway reminded me that I'm a smart and capable person with incredible gifts to offer the world. My recovery, the support of my family, and my close friends have been my foundation in my adult life. Now, I am a successful business owner. I own a business called Space City Window Cleaning and Pressure Washing, so you can Google me, 5-star reviews. And I have a 7-year-old daughter, and I'm still in recovery. Archway provided me with a blueprint on how to live life sober and how to have healthy, fulfilling friendships. This road wasn't always easy, but I'm here to share with you the life-changing gifts I was given at Archway. Thank you for supporting the teachers and staff members that became like family to me, and thank you for believing in these kids.
I'm pleased to be speaking to you as a parent of an Archway student. And on the most basic of levels, that's because it signifies that he's alive. And that's a fact I embrace and do not take for granted and thank Archway for, because for many years, that future has been hard to visualize. At 13, my son, who excelled academically, athletically, played drums in the high school rock band, suffered from a deep depression which was so dark and painful he could not stand it anymore, and tried to relieve and end that pain forever. That near-fatal attempt left our family broken, and my husband and I decided to fix it. We were determined. We were going to fix his pain, fix his 16-year-old brother's guilt for not recognizing and rescuing his brother from his pain, fix the confusion of his 10-year-old twin brothers and sister who were lost because inexplicably their brother was in the hospital. No one was speaking about it, and we were all very, very sad. So after he returned home, we went to a new school and had therapy. Substances were not even on the radar. But the pain and the anxiety remained, and he secretly started self-medicating with drugs, alcohol, and self-destructive behavior, which again almost ended his life. It was suggested we look into Archway Academy. We saw it as a kind of futile last resort. But as he entered as a sophomore in high school 3 years ago, it became his game changer, our game changer. It was the light at the end of the tunnel, despite some brownouts. The light became brighter every year. What Archway provides is a remarkable student-centered model where school and sobriety are non-negotiable. The rigor and accountability are intensely high, while at the same time, the staff and teachers provide a foundation of acceptance, forgiveness, and support. And of course, there is the secret sauce, Sasha. We have experienced that framework, and the culture created by the staff is so innate and organic, it becomes ingrained in the student body, making this a unified and fertile environment for learning, growth, maturity, and ultimate change. It is extremely hard work for all involved, especially the student. Archway isn't there to fix them. It's not there to pick them up. It's not there to catch them if they fall. It is so much more mindful and wise than that. They respectfully and patiently foster the ability to recognize the mistakes, to come up with a new game plan, and to hold that child accountable for executing that game plan. Basically, they recognize they made a mess and they have to clean it up, whether that's literally or figuratively. Obviously, I cannot say enough about Sasha and what her team has created at Archway Academy. They have touched my heart, and not just because of what they've done for our family, but because that they have done and continue to do the paramount inroads they have made addressing this high-risk, suffering, almost forgotten population. They've created a masterpiece. So today, I feel very honored to say that I am the proud parent of a senior at Archway Academy.
I wish I could say that I was pregnant and that's why I'm crying so much, but that's not happening. I'm just having leaky face all day today. Okay. So our luncheon speaker is no stranger to the spotlight or to crippling pressure because she is an Olympic athlete. Carrie Bates is a former NCAA collegiate swimming champion from the University of Texas at Austin and a 3-time Olympic gold medalist. She's now a community outreach representative with Hazelden Betty Ford in Oregon. Her story is going to take you through her decade-long plunge into alcoholism and through her transformation as a wife, a mother, and a recovery advocate. Carrie currently lives in Oregon and couldn't make the trip down here in person at this time, but she has recorded a powerful message of hope for us today. It's my pleasure to introduce Carrie Bates.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you here today. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Archway Academy for including me in your very special day and your special luncheon today. Before I get started, I'm going to ask each of you to close your eyes just for a minute. I know it's lunchtime, so don't fall asleep, but I'd like you to close your eyes for just a minute. What is the first image that comes to your mind when you think of an alcoholic or a drug addict? Is it the person under the bridge that's drinking out of a brown paper bag? Is it the celebrities that you see on TV that are in and out of celebrity fancy treatment centers and in and out of recovery? Is it your doctor or your surgeon? Is it the pilot that just flew you and your family on your last vacation? Or maybe it's someone a little closer to home. Maybe it's your child or your parent or someone in your family, or maybe a really close friend. Hello, my name is Carrie Steincypher Bates, and I'm an alcoholic living in long-term recovery since February 1st of 2012. And this is what we look like. I was thinking as I was preparing for this talk today about how much the world has changed in the last 18 to 20 months. Me doing this presentation to you virtually is a prime example of that. But there's so much that has changed. The world has been full of fear and uncertainty and the unknown, and also a lot of death and a lot of mourning and loss, all very similar traits to that of addiction. Some things, however, have remained the same. And two of those things for me personally is one, July 29th of 1984, when I won my first gold medal in swimming at the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. It was something that I had dreamt of my entire life, to be an Olympian and to be an Olympic gold medalist. And I'll never forget that day. I swam the 100-meter freestyle. It was 2 laps of the pool. When I touched that wall at the finish, I looked up at the scoreboard and the number 1 was by my name. I did it. I had reached the ultimate goal that I had set for myself as a little girl, and I was now an Olympic champion. The other date that stands out to me that will never change is January 25th of 2012, when I took my last drink of alcohol and entered a residential treatment program for the 4th time in 2 years. Probably pretty interesting that those two things can exist in the same sentence for the same person. Today, I'm going to spend a brief amount of time talking to you about addiction, recovery, and ultimately redemption. The message I hope you will take away is that I am recovering because of the we of this program. All the teachers, the counselors, the therapists, and the many, many people that I travel this journey with, my fellow comrades in recovery, the people that have guided me into a sustainable recovery. I'm very proud of the hard work and dedication that I've put into my own recovery, but I would not be here without the we of recovery. Early on the morning of January 25th of 2012, I sat at my kitchen table, drinking alcohol out of a coffee cup with the 2 friends that I had left, thinking, of course, that nobody knew that I was drinking. They both looked at me, and then they looked at each other and said, "Now what do we do with her?" I had not seen my young daughters in weeks because my husband was no longer willing to allow them to be exposed to my drinking. I had been in residential treatment 3 times at this point, and yet I was once again in another relapse. A relapse of my chronic, incurable disease, just like many other chronic illnesses, heart disease, diabetes, and many others. This is a cunning, baffling, and powerful disease, but it is also very patient and very opportunistic. And if we don't invest into our recovery, we will have a return to use, which I did many, many times in my efforts over the years to get sober. I remember one time I was told that what I put in front of my sobriety, I will lose. And unfortunately, I had to go on and prove that in my life. I wanted to run that morning. I wanted to run far away. The thought of going to treatment again to me was daunting. But where was I going to go? There was nowhere left to run. I had been running for years, in and out of treatment centers, in and out of friendship groups, running away from my own children. I knew that if I drank again, I knew full well if I drank again, that I would lose everything. My career, my friendships, my long-term marriage, and ultimately my children. I remember thinking to myself that morning as I sat at the kitchen table, if I can be the best in the world at something, how and why can't I figure out this little problem I seem to be having with alcohol? So here I was, once again at the crossroads. The alcohol at this point had stopped working, so I was stuck. I couldn't live with it, and I couldn't imagine my life without it. I was completely and totally hopeless. So now what? Now what do we do? Empty bottles were strewn all over my house, cigarette butts everywhere. I was dirty, and I was too sick to even let my dog in the backyard. I came to sometime in the early hours of the morning, the day after my friends had been sitting at that kitchen table. And I'm not sure if I call it a spiritual awakening, an epiphany, or a message from my higher power. But I knew in that moment that I had taken my last drink. I had gone to great lengths for years to drink, no matter the consequences. Yet in that moment, I knew I was done. I had been in very dark places emotionally during my drinking, to the point where I wanted to end my life several times. That morning, I did make a deal with my higher power, and I told my higher power that if I survived a detox at home alone, which I would never recommend, it was very dangerous, that I would go to treatment one more time and try and save my life. And that began a very painful 5 days of detox at home alone, with hallucinations, hearing TVs that weren't on, thinking people were in my home that were not. But you know what? I survived. So that morning when I woke up on day 5, I made what I hoped to be the last call to a treatment center for me to come to treatment. I spent 90 days in treatment that year in 2012, and it was the greatest gift that I ever gave myself, because I knew when I had survived that detox that there was a greater purpose for me. There was a reason that I was still here, and I needed to find out what it was. Here I was, a broken shell of a woman, a mother that had walked away from her own children. I lost a long and successful career at Nike. I was dirty, I hadn't eaten in days, and was surviving on the calories of alcohol. A woman who didn't know if it were night or day unless I looked out of the blinds of my home. Most of my friends were gone at this point, except the 2 that were there that morning. But the 2 mainstays in my life before I went to treatment that last time in 2012 were my older brother and my sweet father. I'm quite sure they hated me at that point, or at least they were pretty frustrated with me. But that seemed totally okay with me at that time, because nobody was really better at hating myself than I was. So how does a person like me end up there? How does my life end up so unmanageable? I didn't come from a broken home, but I did come from an alcoholic home. I had 2 parents that loved and supported me and encouraged me in pursuing my dreams of being an Olympic champion, of going to college, and of all the other normal things that many of us as young kids dream of doing. But the alcoholism in my family is really what drove me to the pool. It drove me to that place where I felt safe and nobody could really hear me cry underwater. That's a place where I would go as a kid and work out my fears and my frustrations and my anger. And I was able to express there what I could not express in my own home, because it had become my safe place. And I just so happened to be pretty good at it. So that helped too. But I had the trifecta. I had the hole in my soul, the genetic predisposition that I didn't know anything about. And I also had this brain wiring that is different than most people's. But interestingly enough, it's that same brain wiring that's different than most people that allowed me to be an Olympic champion. So how does that mental malady exist in one person and contribute both to my brightest days and my darkest days? You know, I have seen the world from a view that very, very few people ever get, but I have also seen hell on earth. And I hope nobody that I love and care about ever have to see that place. On the outside, it appeared I had it all. 3 Olympic gold medals, a family of means, 2 beautiful children, a promising and successful career traveling the world, but nothing could seem to fill that hole in my soul. I spent years acting as if, and silently I was dying inside. But I had finally found my end, my bottom. I spent 90 days in treatment in 2012, and guess what? I got well. Not because of some sort of miracle, but because I finally found some traction in recovery and a way to navigate and sustain recovery from a progressive, chronic illness that has no cure, but there is a solution. I finally got it. And I learned sometimes it takes more than one time to get it. I've spent the last 6 years telling my story, that treatment works and that we change the world by using our voice and by telling our stories. And I say 6 years, I've almost been sober 10. Took me 4 years to go public with my recovery, and that's the shame and guilt that's attached to this disease. I use my full name. People know where I live and what community I live in. And people also know who my employer is. I am not going to hide in recovery. I hid in my active disease, and I will not hide in recovery. My kids are now grown, but they also use their stories and their voices because my story is not theirs. They use their story to help change the world and to help change the stigma of this disease, because this disease does not discriminate. This disease caused me to do bad things. It caused me to act irresponsibly, and I hurt people I love and those that love me. I wasn't a bad person trying to get good. I was a very sick person trying to get well, but I am one of the lucky ones because I got well. I learned that addiction had consumed every fiber of who I was, and that if I wanted to live this life that I was promised in recovery, that my recovery had to consume every part of my life too. Just like being an elite athlete had also consumed every fiber of my body, and I was successful at that too. Swimming provided me the highs that I never knew I needed, and they prevented me from feeling the lows. I loved the rush of racing, the challenge of training, and the absolute sheer joy of winning. And it all helped me avoid the lows in my life. When that period of my life ended, I no longer had those highs, and I had no way to prevent the low lows. And lo and behold, there was that giant hole in my soul that existed. I, of course, got wrapped in the wine and baby culture, play dates with other moms that would drink at noon and, mommy, baby on the hip and wine on the lip. And as a matter of fact, just recently I was invited to a social where it was, come for a full body cleanse, but have a drink. And I thought, wow, but I subscribed to all of it because at the end of the day, I was looking for people that needed and wanted to drink like I did. Recovery has given me more than I could have ever imagined, and it's given me everything that I had been searching for my entire life. I have remarried to an amazing man. I have a relationship today with my 2 daughters that I only dreamt of, and I have a new career at Hazelden Betty Ford, the very place that saved my life. The day I got hired, they handed me a key to the building, and I thought, do they not remember my stories from being in treatment here? And you can only imagine how happy I felt the first paycheck I received because now they were actually paying me. Aside from my children, my recovery is my greatest single accomplishment and what I am most proud of. The Olympic gold medals really gave me the platform today to use my name, my face, and my story to tell people that we can and do recover. Nothing good in my life has come without a lot of hard work, and my recovery has by far been the hardest. But my hardest day sober is still far better than my best day drunk. My husband made some vows to me the day that we got married, and he told me that he would walk in front of me to protect me, and he would walk behind me in case I slipped and fell. And when I was strong enough, he would walk next to me and hold my hand with pride. And I'm so, so happy that I get to walk next to him today. You all in the audience today in Houston, and all of you amazing people at Archway Academy, are beacons of hope and agents for change for our kids and for your community. Getting sober in my 40s was incredibly difficult. I can't imagine traveling this journey as a teenager. You have the we at Archway Academy and are giving these kids a hope and a clear path for sobriety and success in life. My call to action for all of you today is 1, give where you can to Archway Academy and to the recovery community at large in Houston. Number 2, if you have substance use disorder in your family, you must talk to your children and grandchildren about it. I knew nothing about genetic predisposition, and we owe it to future generations to let them know what is running through their veins. If you are a family that understands and has been touched by addiction, share your story with somebody else that doesn't know. Use your voice to make change. And lastly, if you are someone that is in recovery from anything, tell your story. Your voice, your face will change the world and the perception and stigma that we have towards addiction. Thank you again for having me here today. It's been such a pleasure being able to address all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your lunch.
Hi, everybody. My name is Renee Leslie, president of the Archway Academy Board. Wow, what powerful messages today, don't you think? Amazing. Let's give a hand to everybody that stood on the stage. And thank you, Carrie, for sharing your story all the way from Oregon. Your support in raising awareness about Archway is priceless. However, there is a price tag to operating a recovery high school, and today's primary purpose is to raise funds for Archway Academy's scholarship program. Take a moment to reflect on the stories you heard today, especially the courage and vulnerability you heard from Lua, Nihan, Kyle, and Carice, and the parent too. Thank you. Imagine how different life would be for them without an Archway that supports their recovery, their mental health, and their academic goals. Please consider making a contribution to Archway Academy today and invest in the lives of these students in recovery. You can do so using our text to donate by texting 50155, by scanning the QR code at your table, or through our website, archwayacademy.org, or you can write a good old-fashioned check, we take those too, or fill out your credit card info on the donation cards at your seat and drop with the kids on their way out. We're so grateful for your presence here today and all of your support. Thank you very much. At each table, you will find a flower under one of the saucers. If you find the flower, the centerpiece is yours. Thank you so much. Until next year.